Hey there, Thunderwolves. I hope you are having an awesome day. As promised, we are going to be taking some time together to review for your Chapter 2 test that is coming up next class period. So, a couple of things that I want to go over before we jump into it. As we go through this review, you should have paper and pencil in front of you, ready to write down each problem and solve it with me. So if you are sitting there right now with nothing in front of you except your laptop, please pause this video, go get a piece of paper, get your pencil sharpened, grab yourself a calculator, and come on back when you have all your supplies ready to go. Because I will be looking to see your work papers when I come back to class, to see that you've, written down the questions that we're going over and have done the practice along with me. So, what will we be practicing today? The Chapter 2 test will cover the following topics. So we will need to know how to write equations, how to solve one-step and multi-step equations, how to solve equations with variables on both sides, how to solve equations with absolute value, how to solve ratios and proportions, how to work with percent of change, and how to solve literal equations. So these are all of the skills we will be working on today. If there are any particular topics that you feel most uneasy about, then make sure to put extra emphasis on that review section and email me any questions you might have. All right? So, if your pencils and paper are ready, let's jump into our review. So the first thing we're going to review are equations. You don't have to write down this equation, but it would be a great study tool to use if you did. So go ahead, pause this video, write the equation down if you want, but what I want everyone to do is to translate this sentence into an equation. When you're done, press play and watch as I go through it with you. So 6 times the sum of a number n and 4. So that's where I'm going to start. So we've got 6 times the sum, and the sum of what? A number n and 4. So I recognize the sum of. We've learned that this formula, the blank of, it could be the sum of, it might be the difference of, maybe it's the product of, the quotient of. Whatever follows this format, the blank of, the sum of, the difference of, that format is explaining to us that we need to solve that part first. We have to find that sum or difference first before we apply the multiplication or the other operation that's being mentioned. So here, the sum of a number n and 4, so we're going to do n plus 4. And what did it say we were doing with the sum of a number n and 4? We are multiplying it 6 times. So I'm going to put the 6 on the outside of the parentheses. Now this is going to make sure that we're multiplying n plus 4 times 6. Because if I did not have the parentheses, then I would just be multiplying n times 6, and the 4 would be left out. Now that I've done that part, it says is the same as, so that's my equal sign, the difference between 2 times n to the second power and 10. Now, the difference between, yes, it's not the difference of, but between is interchangeable with the word of in this sentence. So, is the same as the difference of 2 times n to the second power and 10. So that would be your equation. Now I want you to work the other way. Go ahead and take this equation and translate it into a sentence. When you're done, press play and we'll check it. So there's a lot going on here. So I'm going to break it down one step at a time. So I first ask myself, okay, what do I have happening? I have 3d squared minus 9d plus 8 equals 4 times d plus 2. So first I have the difference here and then addition. So I could do the difference of, I don't need to because it doesn't have to have parentheses, but I'm going to. So the difference of 3 times d to the second power and 9 times d plus 8 is equal to, there's my equal sign. Now here I have parentheses, and I'm multiplying it by 4. So 4 times the sum of d and 2. All right, so there would be my translation, focusing on the fact that I want to make sure that this, especially the parentheses, is done first. That's why I used 4 times the sum of d and 2. All right, moving on. Now let's solve some equations. First, we're going to start off with some simpler ones. Now here we have x plus negative 13 equals 9. Please notice we are not multiplying by negative 13. We have a plus sign there. So that means we're adding negative 13. Now, really what we know from our pre-algebra time is that this is really x minus 13 equals 9. So if you need to, rewrite it like that because it makes it a little more clear. Oh, I'm just adding. My inverse operation is addition. So we add to both sides the 13. 13 plus 9. And we get, 9 plus 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So 9 plus 13 is 22. That would be our answer. Now, if I wanted to check this, I would do 22 plus negative 13. And if I plug that into my calculator or do the math, I get 9 as my answer. Always check your work if you want to make sure you get the best score possible and catch your silly mistakes, because you guys got this. You've been rocking it. You know how to solve your equations. It's the silly mistakes that we want to look out for, the little things. So checking your work will help you identify if there is a little thing to look for in your process. Next up, a over 12 equals 5. If you ever get stuck, ask yourself first, what is the operation that is happening? Here, the operation that is happening is division. So our inverse is to multiply. Now, this is a divided by 12. So the reason I'm going to multiply by 12 is because that's my inverse operation. That eliminates the 12s on this side, leaves a equals. And then 5 times 12 on the other side is 60. So we get a equals 60. Now again, if I want to check my work, 60 divided by 12. If I plug that in or do the math, I get 5. So we know our work was correct. Now, for the rest of this video, I am not going to pause to check the work, but I want you to be doing that. So before you press play and watch how I solve each one, go ahead and check your work like we've been doing. All right, next problem. Pause it if you need to, or you guys could go ahead and pause the video, answer all of these, and then press play to go over all of them. All right, so I'm going to keep going. The next problem we have is 2/5 times b equals -4. Now, this one we've been getting better at these, but remember, this is 2/5 times b. So we really need to do b divided by 2/5. But we've learned from our previous classes that you can't really divide a fraction. To complete this operation, we would multiply, keep, change, flip, by the reciprocal, keep, change, flip. So that's why when we have 2/5 times b and we want to separate this, we're multiplying now, so we need to divide. And when we're dividing fractions, we know that that's really multiplying the inverse. So on this side, you're going to multiply by 5/2. Don't just pick one or the other. We got to multiply by the whole reciprocal, by 5/2. That leaves us with b equals -4 times 5, -20/2. Now, you're not done here. Always check, can this be divided? Because remember, in algebra, we're looking at this as division, not just a fraction. And yes, -20 can be divided by 2. So we get -10. Moving on. All right, the next one, we have a third wheel. Remember, always move the third wheel first, always. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. That cancels out. I get 33 plus 9 is 42. Bring down the 7y. So now I have 7y equals 42. Divide. 42 divided by 7. Y equals 6. All right, now we have division happening here. When this happens, this is our third wheel. That is the number that needs to move first. Now, in order to do that, we ask ourselves, what is the operation that is happening? Right now, it's 9 minus a divided by 2. Or I could say the difference of 9 and a divided by 2. So if this is division, to move it, I need to do the opposite. So I multiply. Now, because the 2 is down here, we're not actually like distributing or multiplying the top by anything, because 2 times the division of 2 cancels out. So that leaves us with 18 times 2, but it's negative. So -36 equals 9 minus a. From here, we want to subtract 9. So -36 minus 9 is -45 equals -a. Now, I've run out of space, but to finish this, you would divide by -1. You can see that. It's so tiny. That cancels out the negatives because our answer is not complete until the variable is alone, including any negative little buddies. So we get rid of those negatives. That cancels out on this side too. So our answer is 45 equals A. If you put -45, it would be wrong. So be careful about that. Okay, now, next one, again, we have a third wheel. Always move that first. So +7 on both sides. That gives me n/4 equals -2 plus 7 is +5. Now, we're not done because n is not alone. So, again, what is my operation? N divided by 4. So, to move the 4, my inverse is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 4 on both sides. N equals 20. All right, now, our favorite questions. You guys actually were getting really, really good at these, so that's something to be proud of because these trick a lot of students and a lot of adults. So let's work through one of our consecutive integer problems. The question is asking us to find 3 consecutive integers with a sum of -39. So we want 3 consecutive integers. Now it doesn't say consecutive, even, or odd, so I'm going to use n plus 1, and n plus 2 as my consecutive integers. So I need to make sure that these 3 add up to give me a sum of negative 39. So there's my expression, my equation, I should say. Now we solve it. So to do that, combine your like terms first. N plus n plus n, that gives me 3 n's, 3n. 1 plus 2 is 3, equals negative 39. Now we solve just like normal, so we want to isolate the variable n. I'm going to subtract 3 first, get rid of that third wheel. That leaves 3n equals negative 42. Divide by 3, and we get n equals negative 14. So our answer would be negative 14. But that's not the answer to the question. They wanted 3 consecutive integers. So if n is negative 14, that's this right here. So we have 14, or negative 14. And then n plus 1, well, negative 14 plus 1 is negative 13. And n plus 2, so n is negative 14 plus 2 more is negative 12. These are your final answer. So you would need to include all 3 if it's asking for 3 consecutive even integers. Okay, moving on. Some more equations. Go ahead, pause the video, answer all of these. You don't have to answer this one yet. We're going to talk about this one together. But the rest of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, work through them if you want, or just pick one to start with. Pause it, do the work, and then check my review with you. All right. 9w minus 24 equals 6w plus 18. So I want to isolate the variable w. That's my variable here. So I'm first going to subtract 6w. Now remember, algebra equations are not one size fits all. There are multiple roads to take to get to the same answer. So perhaps you decided to add 24 first. That's not wrong. As long as you use inverse operations, you will get to the same correct answer. So I've just opted to move my variable first. So 9w minus 6w is 3w minus 24 equals 18. Add 24 to both sides. 3w equals 42. Divide by 3. And we get w equals 14. Good. Okay. So w is 14. Moving on. Now we have some distribution. So we do that first. So 4 times 3w is 12w. Don't forget the second distribution. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 8 times 2w is 16w. 8 times 3 is 24. Now we combine like terms. This time I'm going to move 12w first. So I have negative 8 equals 4w plus 24. Subtract 24 from both sides. Negative 32 equals 4w. And so we get w equals negative 8. Okay. Now, moving on, 21 plus 3j equals 9 minus 3j. So I'm going to subtract 3j. 21 equals 9 minus 6j. Subtract 9 from both sides. 12 equals negative 6j. Divide by negative 6. Negative 2 equals j. All right, and now here we have a proportion. We have learned a couple of ways to do, we have learned the way that we're going to do this is with cross multiplication. So I'm going to cross multiply. 4 times 6r minus 7 equals 10 times r. All right, so I did 4 times 6r minus 7. Please notice I had to put the 6r minus 7 in parentheses to make sure this whole thing gets multiplied. And then 10 times r is 10r. Now I distribute 24r minus 28 equals 10r. I'm going to subtract 24r now from both sides. Negative 28 equals negative 14r. Now, divide by negative 14, and I get positive 2 equals r. R equals 2. Now, a couple things I wanted to revisit with you to clarify. So a no solution problem. Remember, you've got to solve all the way until the variable is completely alone. If you have 30y equals 30y. Well, we have y's on both sides. We're not done. You don't just stop there, okay? We subtract 30y from both sides, and we get 0 equals 0. So this would be an infinite solution. All right. Now, if I did this and I ended up with an equation that gave me an answer that didn't make sense, for example, 5 equals negative 12. Well, no, it doesn't. That's a lie. 5 does not equal negative 12. So that's when we get to an answer like that, that's when you know there's no solution. All right. And then the last one, x equals 0, well, that might be if we have something like 0 equals 30y. Well, you might be thinking that's no solution, but we still have the y with the 30. We're not done, never done until the variable is completely alone. So divide by 30, and we get y equals 0, or x equals 0. All right, so those are 3 scenarios to look out for. Now, find 3 consecutive integers such that the 3 times the sum of the first 2 integers is the same as 13 more than 4 times the third integer. Whew, that sounds like a lot, all right? Pause it. I really want you to try this on your own. Do not just think it's too tough and skip it. That is not how we are going to ever grow or improve. So pause it and give it a shot. Break it down slowly. I promise you can do it. If you've already tried it, we want to find 3 consecutive integers. So we know that's going to be n plus 1, and n plus 2. And we want 3 times the sum of the first 2 integers, all right? So that's these 2. Those are my first 2. Now, I am going to put n plus 1. Really, these should be brackets, but I kind of had started writing it before I got to that step. So it's 2 parentheses, but we would want these to be brackets. All right, so 3 times the sum of the first two integers, n and n plus 1. We don't know those numbers yet, so that's like their code names. And then is the same as equals 13 more than 4 times the third integer. Well, that's n plus 2. And they said 13 more than that, so plus 13. Now, let's simplify. So 3 times 2n plus 1 equals 4n plus 8 plus 13. 6n plus 3 equals 4n plus 21. All right, subtract 3 and subtract 4n. So 2n equals 18. 2n equals 18, so divide by 2, n equals 9. So if n equals 9, n plus 1 is 10, n plus 2 is 11. That would be your final answer. Those are your 3 consecutive integers. All right, you're doing great. If you need to take a little brain break, do it, but we've got some more to work through. Now, next we're moving on to absolute value. Remember, the absolute value bars make it positive. So first we're going to evaluate, and they're giving me our values. M equals -8, n equals 4, p equals -12. So we're going to plug that in. So 3 times -8 minus 4. Keep the absolute value bars until you've done everything else inside. So 3 times -8 is -24 minus 4. That's -28. But it's absolute value, so our answer is positive 28. Next up, -2p plus m minus 3n, but we have absolute value. So I'm going to plug in first, -2 times -12 plus, oops, I made a mistake. I don't want to mess myself up. So this is where you would definitely erase, because neatness can help you avoid mistakes. So m is -8, so this is going to be -8 minus 3 times n, which is 4. All right, so -2 times -12 is 24 plus -8 minus 3 times 4 is 12. All right, 24 minus 8. If I do my math, 24 minus 8, I get 16 minus 12. Now, it's absolute value of a positive. That does not turn it negative. It just keeps it positive. So it's 16 minus 12, which is 4. And the last one, now we have -3 on the outside. This is telling us that we are multiplying, just like if that was parentheses. However, we're not going to distribute. We're going to solve what's inside the absolute value first. So this will be -3 times 6 times n was 4 minus 2 times -12. So that's -3 times 6 times 4 is 24 minus -24. All right, 2 times -12. So that cancels out and becomes positive. -3 times 48. 48 times 3 is -144. All right. So hopefully that's making some sense. Remember, the major takeaway here is that the absolute value bars, we solve what's inside of them first, and then we take and make that positive. All right. Moving on. Now we're going to solve absolute value. Now, with absolute value, you have to solve it twice. That's our major key here, all right? We got to solve it twice. Once for the positive scenario and once for the negative. So if this is my absolute value, I don't have anything outside of the absolute value bars. If I did, that third wheel would get moved first, all right? Remember that, but we don't. So we're just going to rewrite this as negative 4w plus 2 equals 14, and negative 4w plus 2 equals negative 14, all right? You set it up twice and then solve it. So negative 4w equals 12. So w equals negative 3. Or if we try the negative scenario, negative 4 equals negative 16. Oops. I forgot the w. There we go. Cancel out. W equals 4. Now, you need both of these answers for it to count as correct. Okay. So the next one, y minus 9 equals 16. So y minus 9 equals 16. And y minus 9 equals negative 16. That means y equals 25. Or if y equals negative, or y minus 9 is negative 16, that's going to give me 7, negative 7. So y equals 25 or y equals negative 7. Okay, moving on to ratios and proportions. So, are these ratios equivalent? Remember, this is where we cross multiply. So we would do 45 times 3. Don't be too proud to use your calculator, just to avoid silly mistakes. So 45 times 3 is 135. 27 times 5 is 135. So are these equivalent? Yes. Here we have 32 times 3. That gives us 96. And 18 times 4, 72. All right, so see how these now have different cross products? So these are not equivalent. If we're solving a ratio, we are going to cross multiply as well. So this is going to be 4 times 45, 180, equals 9 times a, 9a. Divide by 9. 180 divided by 9 is 20. And the last one, so we have 9 times 5, that's nice and simple, 45. But then we have 3 times k plus 3. So remember, this is where we need to use parentheses. From here we distribute. Make sure to distribute to both pieces. The most common easy mistake is to forget to multiply the second term. So we get 45 equals 3k plus 9. Subtract 9 from both sides. That moves it. 45 minus 9 is 36 equals 3k. Divide by 3. 12 equals k. All right, so those are the answers to your proportions. Now let's do percent of change. We are almost done, guys. We've got this and one more section. Now, percent of change. We learned that the triangle means change. You'll see this in algebra. You'll see this in physics. It will show up in a lot of places in the future. So percent of change, remember we use our equation. New minus the original over the original, divided by the original. And that equals our percent of change. So you might want to memorize this equation if you haven't already. So if our original amount is 40 and our new amount is 50, we don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter because if we're going from 40 to 50 of something, this is a percent increase. And to find what percent it increased by, we are going to do new minus original over original. So that gives me 10 over 40. And if I divide that, we get 0.25. Now, my answer is not 0.25%. We need to move the decimal to the right 2 places. So that becomes 25%. Okay. So let's try the next one. This one we have starting with $72 and the new price is 60. So this was actually a percent decrease. We love those when we're shopping. So to figure it out, we follow the same formula. This time the new is 60 minus 72 over 72. So 60 minus 72 is negative 12 over 72. Now, if I divide negative 12 divided by 72, I get negative 0.17, round to the second place value. All right, so I'm not going to write a negative percent. The negative just confirms for me that it's a decrease. So this is going to become 17% decrease. So we would say that was a 17% sale. Now let's use that to find the total price of something. Let's buy some hockey skates. So if the skates are $199 and tax is $525, I'm going to do $199 times 5.25 as a percent. So I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left and add in my 0. So this will be 199 times 0.0525. All right. So we're taking the percent and making it into a decimal first. So percent to decimal. That's how we get here. Then we just rewrote it so it's not confusing. And now we multiply. 199 times 0.0525. So that's 10.45. So that is the tax. But we want the total price. So since it's a sales tax, we add that to it. So tax means add. Unfortunately, you're always adding to your final price. So it would be $199 plus $10.45, and we get $209.45. So that's how much our hockey skates would be with tax. Now, let's say we're buying a jacket and it's on sale, 25%. So first, I'm going to turn this into a decimal. So that's going to be 0. Move the decimal 2 places, 25, times the original price, $129. 129 times 0.25, we get $32.25. That is my discount. That is awesome. Great deal. So now if it's a discount, we are going to subtract. Take it away. So I'm going to do my 129 minus 32.25. So 129 minus 32.25 is 96.75. So I'm going to get my jacket that was $129 for $96.75. Great deal. All right, last section, our literal equations. They're going to tell us a variable to solve for. We use inverse operations to do so. So if I'm solving for y here, I want the y alone. So I first need to move the 3x to y equals negative 3x plus 9. And then I need y alone. So I need to divide by 2. So we get y equals negative 3x plus 9 over 2. Or it would be fine if you did y equals 9 minus 3x over 2. Both of those are the same. So now I've solved for y, I got y alone. Now for the next one, I want to solve for, y. Now m equals 2/5 y plus n. We want y alone, so I move n first. M minus n. I can't actually subtract it because we don't know what they are. So I just write m minus n equals 2 over 5y. Now, just as if we did know what this number was, we would want to multiply by the reciprocal to get the variable alone. So we multiply by 5/2. Now, here it cancels out and leaves just y. Here, I'm not going to actually do the multiplication because we don't have numbers here. So we would just leave this as 5/2 times m minus n. And that's your final answer because we've gotten y alone. That's how I know I'm done. Remember, you can't just throw away pieces of an equation, all right? It's like in science. The law of matter states that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So same for pieces of an equation. Unless you use an inverse operation, it doesn't just disappear. So here we're going to solve for d. Well, this time I have d on both sides. So first I want to get those together. So 5d minus 3c equals f. D alone, so I'm going to add 3c. 5d equals f plus 3c, or 3c plus f. It's addition, so it doesn't matter the order. And then we want d alone, so I'm going to divide by 5. That leaves d equals f plus 3c over 5. And we leave it like that, all right? Now, I would not put f plus 3c divided by 5. That is not going to give you the right answer, the right response. So don't put that. Use the fraction method. Last one, solve for p. P is right here. So I want to move 8n first. 6p equals 12 plus 8n. And I want p alone, so divide by 6. P equals 12 plus 8n over 6, or 8n plus 12 over 6. Now reminder, this is only because it's addition. If it was subtraction, it needs to be in the right order. So there would only be one acceptable answer, not two. This is only because we are adding, okay? Now, that is the final part of our review. So, because you've been awesome and went through this whole thing, you have a bonus opportunity. So, to earn 2 extra points on your test next week, email me the solution to the following question before your class is over, all right? It won't count if you go home, watch this video, and then email me. It has to be done in class. So, on a map of North Carolina, the distance between Charlotte and Wilmington is 14.75 inches. If 2 inches equals 24 miles, what is the approximate distance between the two cities? So, solve that, do your work on a piece of paper, and then you can just email me, just type it in, your answer. Make sure to label your units. Great job, guys. I'm really proud of your effort. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope you have an even better weekend. I will see you when I'm back in class on Monday. Hasta la vista, guys.